And hello everybody, welcome back to RFC News. Russell Martin, yes, probably the worst manager in our histories, came out and spoke out for the first time since, of course, being sacked by Rangers. And in today's video, we're going to be going through kind of the key talking points that he spoke about. But in true Russell Martin fashion, he takes no responsibility, really. And he says, it wasn't that bad. I only lost one game. He also went on to say that he didn't regret anything. Let's get into it, guys. But first, please do hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for more. So, Russell Martin, he turned up on a BBC show last night and essentially came out and said, I don't regret anything. There's loads of frustration for me as a coach and as a manager and as a leader, but ultimately it's always your fault as a manager. It's my fault I didn't do well enough, and you learn from it, and it'll be better at it for sure. He also said that he loves Glasgow as a city. I loved living there. It was really difficult for people around me, family, friends. When my kids came up, they couldn't even go to the game because of the level of abuse I received at one point. Now, this thing is here. He says that he doesn't regret anything. How? Why wouldn't you regret anything as a manager and as a coach? It was a real stinking display as a coach, and I've never seen a Rangers side poorly managed. Not even Pedro Canicha can take that record. Pedro was a lot better than Russell Martin, and to be fair, I think that's on him. Yes, he has a style of play, but to say that he doesn't regret anything, I think that's a pretty wild statement to make. He also went on to say spoke about the approach. He said he suggested that things less change so quickly. He said there was so much change. I walked in the club at the time of the new owners, and I literally had been in there 2 weeks when I came in. New director of football, chief executive, head of performance, new head coach, 40 new players. I tried to stress a lot that it would probably take some time, and that's my fault because I was in a place where historically and traditionally you don't really have time. I'd have loved the time to have built something, and I felt that that was the club needed. The owners decided differently, and they made their decision. He also went on to speak about the players, of course, that he recruited. He spoke about the likes of Fernandez and Mikey Moore doing well as well. But I want to stress here, Mikey Moore didn't do well under Russell Martin whatsoever. That was his style of play. That was his coaching. And to be fair, the team didn't look coached for Russell Martin. I think he's trying to suggest that not necessarily his fault, always blaming and making excuses. When Danny Rule took in, he started to get results immediately. Now, that's the mantra. I do think that the owners did make the mistake in appointing Russell Martin in the first place. But again, he's kind of making out it wasn't his fault. It was the sort of surrounding issues that was the fault. No, he got backed heavily from the new owners and was able to bring in players that he could have. And again, at Rangers, you know it's not going to be a project. So if you're lingering around at ninth at the table and say that you don't regret anything, I think is absolutely wild. Now, he also went to speak about the title race. He said, I think Celtic fans and Rangers fans will consider themselves very lucky that they're still within the title race, considering both feel they have had really poor seasons. One of them is my fault, obviously. But apart from that, I genuinely think it's such an interesting season, and heart shaking up a little bit has been really good. I don't know about you, if you agree, Chris, but I think it's really good for Scottish football as a whole. People are talking about it way more. Motherwell, the way that they have approached it under Jens, is brought a bit of interest and a level of excitement about it, which hasn't been there for a while. So yes, Russell Martin, of course, coming out and speaking about his time at Rangers. And again, essentially, you know, as you would probably say, saying that he wouldn't have changed anything. And that's why he's not in a job, because he refused to change anything, especially when we weren't getting the points that we needed. So yeah, his fault. And it'll be interesting to see where he goes next.
In other news, Emmanuel Fernandez's future at Rangers has become an increasingly persistent talking point, with speculation surrounding the defender showing no signs of slowing down. The 24-year-old has been one of the standout performers under Danny Rule, establishing himself as a cornerstone of the side's defensive structure and drawing attention well beyond the Scottish Premiership. Interest first began to gather pace during the winter transfer window, when both Borussia Dortmund and Bayer Leverkusen were credited with monitoring his progress. Despite that reported attention, no formal move materialized, allowing Rangers to retain one of their most consistent and reliable performers for the second half of the campaign. Since then, however, the list of admirers has only grown stronger. Arsenal and Chelsea have now been linked with the former Peterborough defender, underlining the level he is perceived to be operating at. More recently, West Ham have entered the conversation, with reports suggesting the Premier League side are closely tracking his development ahead of a potential summer move. It is the kind of mounting interest that inevitably raises questions about how long Rangers can realistically hold on to a player of Fernandez's current trajectory, particularly given the financial power and global appeal of the league circling. From a Rangers perspective, though, any discussion regarding a possible exit should be firmly parked for the time being. With the Scottish Premiership title still very much within reach, the priority for Roll and his squad must remain solely on matters on the pitch. The challenge of overhauling Derek McInnes's Hearts at the top of the table demands complete focus, and the potential distraction of transfer speculation is something the club can ill afford at such a critical stage of the season. Roll in particular cannot allow himself to entertain thoughts of sanctioning a departure at this juncture. Fernandez has been integral to Rangers' defensive solidity, and removing such a key figure from the equation, even mentally, would risk destabilizing the side during a decisive period. If a move away is ultimately destined to happen in the summer, then that is a conversation for a later date. For now, the expectation must be that the defender remains fully committed to the cause. That said, the long-term outlook appears increasingly uncertain. Rangers, like many clubs operating outside Europe's so-called elite leagues, often find themselves vulnerable when interest arrives from the Premier League or the Bundesliga. Despite their stature and history, the pull of those competitions, both financially and competitively, can be difficult to resist. Should concrete offers arrive from clubs of that caliber, Rangers may find their ability to retain Fernandez significantly tested. If that scenario does come to pass, the responsibility will fall on the club's leadership to manage the situation effectively. Ensuring a substantial profit on any potential sale would be essential, particularly given the relatively modest fee paid to secure his services from Peterborough. Equally important would be the identification and recruitment of a suitable replacement, ideally one capable of stepping into the side without disrupting the progress that has been made. For now, however, such considerations remain secondary. The title race is finally poised, and Rangers cannot afford to let external noise divert their attention. Every player, including Fernandez, must be locked in on the immediate objective of closing the gap and delivering success domestically. Once the season reaches its conclusion, there will be ample time for discussions about the future, whether that involves Fernandez seeking a new challenge or continuing his development at Ibrox. Until then, unity and focus must take precedence, with all involved aligned behind the singular goal of securing silverware. Ultimately, while the noise around Emmanuel Fernandez continues to grow, Rangers must remain disciplined in their approach. Speculation is inevitable when a player performs at such a high level, but it cannot be allowed to derail what could still be a defining end to the season. There will come a time for decisions, negotiations, and long-term planning, but that moment is not now. For Fernandez, the task is simple. Maintain his standards, stay fully committed, and help drive Rangers towards their primary objective. For the club, it is about shielding key assets from distraction and ensuring the collective focus never wavers. If a summer departure does materialize, it should happen on Rangers' terms, maximizing value and preparing thoroughly for what comes next. Until then, both player and club must remain aligned, with all attention fixed firmly on the title race and the opportunity that still lies within reach. But that is all for today's video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We post all the latest Rangers news every single day, so join our fast growing community so you never miss out. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video.